Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite sci-fi franchises. Now, I am going to be a little specific upon that because so many things could technically be considered sci-fi, like RoboCop could be considered sci-fi, Mega Man could be considered sci-fi. So I am going to narrow that down a little bit. What I mean by that in this video is the more kind of space-centered sci-fi stuff, more like your traditional Star Treks and Star Wars and Battlestar Galacticas and stuff like that, because too many things could technically be sci-fi just for me to narrow it down to 10. The list was hard enough to make as is. So I do mean something more space-oriented for the most part. So no Mega Man, no RoboCop, nothing like that. And in 10th place is Robotech, which is probably the first anime I ever watched. I think it could possibly be the first anime a lot of American children in the 80s ever saw. Now, I do specifically mean the first part of Robotech, which is the Macross Saga, or Macross Saga, however you want to say it. The Macross Saga. I liked that one, and yes, before you pop down in the comments, I know that Robotech is actually 3 separate series in Japan that were combined into one whole series here. I am aware of Genesis Climber, whatever Robotech Masters was called, I forget, and of course, Macross, I know, or Macross, however you want to say it. I am aware of that. I don't really care for Robotech Masters or Robotech New Generation or even Shadow Chronicles very much. They're eh. The one I always go back to is Macross Saga, the first 36 episodes of Robotech. I really enjoyed that one. I think the animation was really impressive. It was definitely different for us here in the States growing up as a child, because I was very little when it started airing over here, when I was watching things like G.I. Joe, Thundercats, Transformers and stuff like that. I loved the animation style. It was really impressive. I loved the music in it. Although I found Min-May's songs very irksome because the same songs kind of got used over and over, and Min-May had a very annoying voice. But I liked the fact that it talked about real consequences for actions. Main characters who got killed didn't come back, unlike most shows most cartoons at the time. So when characters died, they died. They were gone. You might see them in a flashback or something, but they were gone. It was a much more adult type of anime or cartoon compared to what we were getting at the time, and things like Transformers and G.I. Joe. Oh, Duke is in a coma, but he's okay. Stuff like that. It was really nice. I really enjoyed the battle sequences. I loved the Veritex, or Valkyries, if you prefer the Macross way they called it. But I loved the Veritex, the ideas of F-14 Tomcats, and the F-14 Tomcat's my favorite kind of airplane. I love the F-14 Tomcat. I loved watching it transform into robots that people could pilot. I thought they were a neat design. I loved a lot of the characters. I thought Rick was awesome. I thought Roy was amazing. He was my favorite character. I thought Max was amazing. Max is also one of my favorite characters. I liked Lisa. I liked Miria. I liked Captain Global. I loved so much of the cast of this show. It was just a great anime to watch. It kind of paved the way for future animes like Dragon Ball Z and Ranma 1/2 and so on. A great anime. Number 9 on the list is Star Wars. And the main reason this is this low is probably because the sequel trilogy has put me off the show, or off the franchise a bit. I did not like the sequel trilogy at all. I was actually a very big Star Wars fan for a long time. I collect lightsaber replicas, which my Star Wars channel is mostly about me reviewing my replicas, and I was very active on it for about 4 or 5 years, constantly doing reviews for lightsaber hilts that I own or owned at the time. Several of which I still have. Matter of fact, I have a couple of them right here out of camera view, hanging up. It's a great franchise. I love the original trilogy. I even really love the sequel trilogy. I always have. I really loved The Mandalorian, the first 2 seasons of it, a lot. I'm enjoying Book of Boba Fett so far. At the time of recording this, I've seen the first 3 episodes. It plays out a bit like a soap opera, but I am enjoying it so far. I really disliked the sequel trilogy and a lot of things it did with the legacy characters, and it just kind of has put me off to Star Wars to a point that I still haven't recovered yet. I really need Star Wars to embrace the concept of the multiverse and let let the Mandalorian actually be an alternate path from the sequel trilogy, so we can get some closure, hopefully, for some legacy characters, and maybe even bring back in the expanded universe as an alternate universe as well. I really think Star Wars would benefit from embracing the multiverse idea. But yes, the original trilogy is still fantastic, and the sequel trilogy still fantastic. Number 8 on the list is Dune. Now, I have not seen the new Dune. I'm going to be honest, I don't have any intentions of watching the new Dune. Maybe after the second part comes out. I love the 1984 movie. Some of that could be childhood nostalgia, because I have been watching this movie for as long as I have living memory, honestly. It came out when I was very little, but I remember seeing it on like VHS and stuff. And I own it on DVD. Matter of fact, well, you can't quite see it, it's down here out of range, but it's actually the very first steelbook I ever bought, and I love steelbooks. The very first steelbook I ever got was the Dune 20th Anniversary steelbook. I love the 84 movie. I love the cast in it with Kyle MacLachlan and Virginia Madsen and Patrick Stewart and Sting, Dean Stockwell. I love the music by Toto. I own 3 versions of the soundtrack. I have 2 CD copies, and I own it digitally as well. I like Toto in general, but I just really like their soundtrack for this movie. It's magical, especially the opening theme music, the ending theme music, and the battle theme at the end when they're taking it over, when they ride the worm in and everything to fight at the end. I love the music to this movie. But I also enjoy the books as well. I've read all 8 of the main books in the series, the first 6 by Frank Herbert and the last 2 by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, basically wrapping up the main story. I've also read one of the prequel trilogies, how do you say that? Brilliant Jihad? I can't remember how you actually pronounce that. But I've read that one and really enjoyed it. I've never read the House trilogy, House Atreides, House Harkonnen, House Corona. I've never read that one. But I love the books I have read, especially the original book. I love the very first Dune book a lot. It's easy to forget it was done in 1965. It's just, there's so many details in this book. It's such a big book, and I absolutely just adore how detailed it is. Frank Herbert does such a good job at just creating this universe and giving it a very lived-in feel, and it very quickly establishes how all this stuff works in his universe, which I really like. I love series that does that. It's one of the reasons why I like J.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings stuff. It's why I love Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time a lot. They're very good at making you understand how their universe works, and I really, really love that. So I love the 84 movie, and I love the actual novels for Dune. They're just some of the best sci-fi has ever been done, period. 7, yeah. Number 7 is possibly cheating, but I think it deserves it, and that is the Twilight Zone, the original Rod Serling Twilight Zone. The reason, even though it's an anthology series, and quite frankly I think it's the best anthology series ever made, is that there are a lot of episodes that deal with space and space travel, so I do feel it counts. I love the original Twilight Zone so much. One, I think a lot of the stories are thought-provoking. Even today, like a lot of them were very relevant for their time, but a lot of them are relevant even today. I love how thought-provoking they are. And I love the cast that are in them. A lot of very well-known actors. Sometimes I didn't even know that did them. I saw an episode for the first time like last year or the year before that had Carol Burnett in it. I didn't know she had ever done one. There are several episodes with Jack Klugman. There are a couple episodes with William Shatner. There's one with Roddy McDowall, and I am a big Roddy McDowall fan. And then there are like 4 with Burgess Meredith, and I'm also a big Burgess Meredith fan. Matter of fact, my favorite episode of The Twilight Zone is an episode called The Obsolete Man, which has Burgess Meredith in it. And I love that episode. Every time I rewatch it, I am just in awe of it. It has this simplicity to it. It's done very minimally. It has this minimalist approach to it. But I absolutely love it. And it's another one of those that's just as relevant now as it was when it aired. Burgess Meredith is also in one of the most famous episodes of the show, Time Enough at Last, which is another one I do truly love. It's one of my probably top 10, top 5 probably favorite episodes. And he is amazing in it as well. He's also in an episode I forget the name of where he's playing the devil. And that was pretty good. The ending's a little but other than that, I like the episode. And then he plays another one where he gets super strength I'm not really keen on. But I love the variety of stories and how well they're done and the important social messages they have. Again, many of which are still relevant. It's a TV show I think everyone should watch. I love the Twilight Zone so much. Number 6 on the list is the Halo franchise. Moving into some video game stuff. I love Halo. I am getting a little burned out on it. I wish they'd kind of wrap up the story and just reboot it from scratch, to be honest. I'm kind of ready for a Halo reboot because I just feel like they're extending the story unnecessarily. I'm like, when does Master Chief in this Prime universe just get to rest and retire? It always seems like there's something else going on. I really enjoyed Infinite. I'm looking forward to some DLC or them expanding the campaign like they're supposed to do. I'm looking forward to the co-op becoming available for the campaign because that's something my best friend has 4 children. We don't get to see each other a lot, so we like to co-op games occasionally when we can. We went through all of the Halo games in either 2020 or 2021, all of them. All of the main ones, 1, 2, 3, Reach, 4, and 5. We went through all of those. And so I'm ready for us to be able to co-op Infinite because I really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed them. I find the very first Halo hard to go back to because it's so disorienting. Everything looks the same. It's easy to get turned around and lost. That and the fact it drives me crazy not having a waypoint button to tell me where to go or a sprint button. Not having a sprint button kills me. But even though they are a bit outdated in their gameplay setup, they're still a lot of fun. I think Halo has a fantastic story, some more than others, but I very much enjoy them. I love the futuristic setting. My first-person shooters have to have some kind of fictional setting. I don't play Call of Duty, I don't play Medal of Honor, I don't play Tom Clancy, because I find these realistic shooters very boring. I love some kind of fictional element to them, like I love Left 4 Dead 2, I enjoy Back 4 Blood. I really love Halo and stuff like that. I liked Overwatch before it made me so mad I just stopped playing it. But yeah, I like Halo 2 is probably my favorite, and then Halo Reach I'm also really fond of. I love the gameplay mechanics of 4 and 5, even if not so much the story. And I really enjoyed Infinite a lot too, so I do think there's a lot of nice lore in the Halo universe, which I enjoy. It feels like a very fleshed out universe. Number 5 on the list is the Mass Effect trilogy. I really do like Mass Effect a lot. I didn't much care for Andromeda. I didn't even finish Andromeda. But I loved the Mass Effect trilogy when I originally played through them. I did buy the Legendary Edition and played through it. I love all of the upgrades made to the first Halo game for the Legendary Edition. I enjoyed my playthrough of it. I usually play Femme Shepard. I don't know why. I like strong female characters. I grew up on that era with Sarah Connor and Ellen Ripley. So I've always loved a really strong female lead in a sci-fi series. And I really like Jennifer Hale voicing Shepard more than I do the male voice actor. So I've only played male Shepard all the way through once. Usually, every other time I've always played female Shepard. And I love, again, this well-built, lived-in world. Much like I talked about with Dune, they have done a really good job of making this world feel real and have a strong depth to it, making it feel very lived in, and teaching you how this universe works and all of the mechanics of it, which I really, really enjoy. I love the gameplay tweaks, I love the cutscenes, I love the heartfelt moments, I love all the different choices you can make in it. My favorite of the 3 is Mass Effect 3. I know for most people it's 2, and 2 they're really close, but I love 3 a lot. 2, I love the loyalty missions a lot, but 3 is my favorite. Plus, I love the graphical upgrade for 3. It's just, I consider Mass Effect the video game version of the original Star Wars trilogy. Like, for all of the love and admiration I have for the original Star Wars trilogy, I consider the video game equivalent of that to be the Mass Effect trilogy. It's amazing. It's magic in a bottle, and I absolutely love it. Number 3 on the list is Star Trek. Just as a franchise whole, I haven't watched any of Discovery. I never will. Season 1 of Picard was okay, even though I think it was ripping off Mass Effect for its plot, but it was okay. But I enjoyed all of the older Star Treks. I love the original series. I love The Next Generation. I love Deep Space Nine. I really like Enterprise, and I enjoy most of Voyager as well. It's got some very strong episodes. I think my favorite series is the 60s series. I think it has a lot of really good social commentary. for its time, a lot of which also still rings true today. I really love Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, for example, and the way it commentates on racial tension, something that's very relevant in today's world, and an episode I think everyone should see. Next Generation has some strong script writing as well. Deep Space Nine does a really good job developing its characters as you watch them grow over the course of the series, much like another show that will be on this list in a minute. And even Enterprise, I really like. One of my favorite Star Trek episodes is an Enterprise two-parter. The In a Mirror Darkly two-parter, which I love it in and of itself, and I love how it ties in with the original series. It's really good Star Trek. So I have a strong, strong love for this series. My favorite movie scene of all time is from a Star Trek movie, Star Trek 3, when they steal the Enterprise. I love that whole scene. It's acted well. It's filmed well. The spaceship sequences are done well, and James Horner's score is one of my favorite pieces of instrumental music ever made. Everything just comes together in this perfect storm. I love that scene. And I love that movie. It's my favorite odd-numbered Trek movie as well. And definitely the one that sticks out. Most of the odd-numbered Trek movies get a bad rep, but that's definitely the one that bucks the trend. So number 2 on the list is Doctor Who, which may surprise some people. Some people might have expected it to be number 1. I'm very obviously a Doctor Who fan. This is mostly a Doctor Who channel. I have all this Doctor Who memorabilia in front of me. I've been watching Doctor Who longer than I have living memory. I'm from the very early 80s. I've been watching Doctor Who since I was very little in the 80s when it came on our public broadcasting system, which we usually just call PBS, which is what it's called. I have been a Doctor Who fan so long, I am not certain who my first Doctor is. I know that's a big point for most Doctor Who fans. You know, you never forget your first Doctor. I have, because I've been watching the show since before I had living memory. I'm sure it was either John Pertwee or Tom Baker, but I learned very early that the Doctor can change his appearance and regenerate because I saw a hodgepodge of stories from different Doctors. So I grew up seeing like the 5 Doctors, the Ark in Space, Inferno. I remember seeing the End of the War Games. So I understood that different people played this character and he could change what he looked like. I remember seeing the ending of Legopolis at a very young age. I remember seeing the beginning of Time in the Ronnie and the end of the War Games. So I caught onto that and assimilated that to that very quickly. I've always loved this show. I remember how excited I was when I was a teenager when the TV movie came out, when I was in school, and being really excited for a brand new Doctor. And the fact Sylvester McCoy in this wasn't advertised, and at the time I couldn't remember the actor's name who played the 7th Doctor, so I didn't recognize his name when it popped up in the opening credits. But the trailers for the show had only showed a new Doctor, so I didn't realize Sylvester McCoy was going to be coming back. So it's not until right past the opening when you see him in the mirror doing that should do it. I was like, holy crap! They brought back the last Doctor! You know, that was a fist pump moment for me, and I was like, I'm going to get to see a regeneration. So, and I enjoyed the TV movie. I was very disappointed at the time that we didn't get more of that, because while it has its flaws, I really enjoyed it. And, of course, I remember being really excited when the new series was announced, and when we finally got it. I think the first episodes aired here in the States, like in early 2006, because back then things used to air months later than y'all got it in the UK. It's not like now. Being really pumped up about it and happy to see the show back, and my love for it has only grown with the modern series. But I do love Doctor Who because I love that, much like the Twilight Zone, where since it's an anthology series, each episode can be its own thing. Doctor Who, just by the DNA that the show is built on, with him being able to travel anywhere in time and space, it can also be a different thing per episode. Well, let's have a Western this episode. Let's go back to Victorian London this episode. Let's go 1,000 years in the future in this episode. Let's go to modern day Earth in this episode. You know, every episode can kind of be its own thing, so you never quite know what you're going to get. You can have a horror episode, a drama episode, a comedy episode. You know, the Unicorn and the Wasp. I don't see how anybody can't like the Unicorn and the Wasp. It's just silly fun, and I love it. I'm so there for it. Doctor Who can be so many things, and I absolutely adore that. And number 1, my favorite sci-fi franchise of all time. The one that ranks even above Doctor Who. Babylon 5. And the fact that I'm very obviously a Doctor Who fan, most of you know I am a Doctor Who fan, the fact that I like Babylon 5 even more than Doctor Who should tell you just how much I love Babylon 5. But I do. I adore this show. It is the best written science fiction show I have ever seen, and one of the best written shows I have ever seen. Much like I mentioned with Deep Space Nine, Babylon 5, the characters are what sell this, the character growth. Because you see all of these characters, and you see where they are at the start of the series, and where they are at the end of the series, and how you watch them grow, evolve, and change over the course of the series is just magnificent to behold. And of course, some of them don't make it all the way, and then you're introduced to new characters partway through. Some of the new characters don't make it all the way. And you always get this feeling that no character is 100% safe. Like in Star Trek, they're not going to kill off Captain Kirk. Well, at least until they did, and that was terrible. But that's another story. But you know, you always have that feeling that anyone could be on the chopping block in Babylon 5. Possibly. You never quite know. And I like that. I applaud the fact that it was the first sci-fi show to use CGI effects for the ships, which look a little dated now, but for their time, they were really good effects. And the effects hold up well, especially if you watch it in the original 4:3 aspect ratio. Now, the DVD release, they stretch it to widescreen, and it looks a little rough on the ship effects. But like if you watch it on HBO Max, where it's done back in its original 4:3, still looks gorgeous. Still looks good. I absolutely love this show. It's got a great soundtrack. The story is amazing. The great thing is the guy who wrote it, J. Michael Straczynski. I have a lot of trouble with his last name. He's one of the guys that people wanted to be the next showrunner for Doctor Who before Russell was announced. Even he was interested in it. He is a great writer. I know in the comic book world, he's very popular. I think he did a lot for Spider-Man. I heard he wrote some really good Spider-Man comics back in the day. I know he helped write on Thor, and I believe he helped do the first Thor movie, because he has a cameo in the Thor movie. He's the guy who tries to pick up the hammer at the beginning, and then he's just like, that's him. That's Straczynski. And he conceived Babylon 5 pretty much all in one go. And he knew the beginning, the middle, and the end. So he already had this 5-year plan mapped out on it, which at the time when the show came out, because the show ran from the pilot movie came out in 93, the series started airing in 94, and then it aired all the way through the end of 98, doing 5 seasons and a few TV movies as well. And at the time, serialized storytelling, which is the norm now, wasn't then. Babylon 5 was a very rare show to do that kind of serialized television. Most television back then was episodic, like Star Trek and Star Trek The Next Generation, and stuff like that. It was very much, each episode is its own thing. Most shows weren't like Babylon 5, where you had to get in on the beginning or else you could get lost. So it was a really big concept to attempt. And I'm so glad the show was able to be done to completion. It is a phenomenal series with well-written stories. And there are things in season 1 that don't make sense till season 3. There are things in season 1 that might not make sense till season 4 and 5. I remember watching the very first episode, not the original TV pilot, The Gathering, but the first actual episode of the season 1, Midnight on the Firing Line, I think it's called. There's something that's said in that is foreshadowing. And I'm like, oh my God, they were foreshadowing that this early. Babylon 5 is one of those TV shows you have to watch twice. Because after you watch it all the way through, and you go back and you watch it the second time, you see all these little hints of foreshadowing. You see what things are setting up. Little tiny things that are very relevant later. And it's all because the whole series was planned out ahead of time. So he was able to plant little seeds, and you slowly see them connecting the dots over the course of the show. One of my favorite reactors, because I do have a couple reactors I like to watch. I have 2 that I'm really fond of. Seska Says, Jessica's channel, where she reviews Doctor Who stuff. I really enjoy her stuff because I love the fact she's doing modern Doctor Who and classic Doctor Who. She's on Pertwee right now. I love her stuff. But then there's another YouTuber named Medusa Cascade who also does Doctor Who stuff, but she does Babylon 5 as well, and I absolutely adore her Babylon 5 reviews because she gets so into it. You can tell she is so in love with the characters of this show and the story of this show. And she has her favorite characters. Like, one of her favorite characters is also one of my favorite characters, the Vorlon Ambassador Kosh. I love Kosh, and she loves Kosh. And just hearing her go on about the show and how it blows her mind, she'll see episodes and you just see her like, I'm having so much fun watching her reactions to that. And it's very much like the 11th Doctor said once to Amy, why he travels with people, is because he basically says, I've seen all of this happen, I've seen the beginning of planets, the end of planets, and I was probably there when they all happened, but you haven't. You haven't seen it. And when you see it, I see it. So, and that's pretty much the same thing here. I like some of these reactions, like watching Jess's Doctor Who reactions and watching Medusa Cascade's Babylon 5 reactions, is because I get to see that joy and wonder as they experience these things for the first time. And when they see it, I see it. Because I've seen Babylon 5 so many times. I rewatch it about every 2 or 3 years. I love the series. So it's really nice being able to share that journey with them as they go through these episodes for these shows for the first time. So yeah, that is my top 10 favorite sci-fi franchises by the criteria I set out. Because I'm also a big Terminator fan, but that didn't quite count for the list. With Babylon 5 being my favorite. If you are a Doctor Who fan and you haven't seen Babylon 5, as someone that you well know I'm a Doctor Who fan, I love Babylon 5 even more. My advice is give it a try. If you have HBO Max, give it a try. If it's on, I don't know if it's on HBO Max in the UK or not, but if you can get a hold of it and watch it, I would encourage you to do so. I've never seen better character development in a sci-fi show in my life. So that is my thoughts on that, my top 10 sci-fi franchises. Other things to do, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I want to give a special shout out to two of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane and the 5th Doctor. I appreciate their support. And a special thank you to all of my other patrons as well, and a special thank you to all of my subscribers as well. If you would like to become one of my patrons, there is a link to my Patreon down in the description below. There are several different tiers to choose from. My entry-level tier is only $2, and my top tier is like $20 with several in between. Different tier levels get you access to different things. You get exclusive videos. You get early access to videos that come on the channel. You get to vote in polls for exclusive videos. You get to vote in polls for stuff that will show up on the channel. You get bloopers and outtakes and stuff like that, life updates, stuff like that. Just if there's anything there that might interest you, there's a link to that down in the description below. I also have acquired a P.O. box recently, as I had a few people messaging me about wanting to send me stuff. So I did get a P.O. box in case anybody wants to send me anything, be it Doctor Who related or anything else, anything you might want me to do a video on, because I will be doing unboxing videos for these, and I will be doing reviews for stuff I get. There is a link, or I shouldn't say there's a link. My P.O. box is listed in the description below if you want to check that out. I also have an Amazon wish list with some stuff I'd like on it, mostly 1st and 2nd Doctor stuff. As those are kind of the gaps in my Doctor Who knowledge mostly, and there's a link to that down in the description below as well. So I would appreciate if you would take the time to check that out. Most importantly though, thank you for watching.